All right, here we are. It is playoff time in the MASL, and I've got picks for the whole thing. Not only that, but I am also, once again, going head to head with Matt and Hannah from the Turf and Boards in this video, which is always very exciting. So with all this going on, why mess around? Let's get right to it. Let's start with the series that has the first game being played in the playoffs, the Kansas City Comets playing the Milwaukee Wave. Now, to me, this is the easiest series to decide. Milwaukee has dominated Kansas City pretty much all year. Now, I know that Kansas City did beat Milwaukee in Milwaukee a while back, but it was just that. That was a while back. Since then, it has been all Milwaukee between these two, and I think that trend will continue into the playoffs. I think Milwaukee will win this series 2-0. That said, Kansas City has upset Milwaukee before in the playoffs, and I don't think it's going to happen this year, but history does repeat itself. The next series by date is then the Rio Grande Valley Barracudas playing Flash de Monterrey. This to me is the toughest series to pick. These two teams have both looked very good throughout the year, and their matchups between one another, well, they've been pretty darn close. So I've been racking my brain trying to think of how to pick a winner in this series, and I decided to go the simple route with this. In the latter half of the season especially, head-to-head matchups between these teams were often won by the home team, and I expect that trend to continue into the playoffs. It happens that Monterrey has home field advantage in this series, so I'm going to give my pick to the Flash, but it's going to be a close series. I think it's going to be 2-1. Next up, we have the San Diego Sockers playing the Tacoma Stars, which to me has massive upset potential. San Diego, they were dominant this year, and their record showed it. They finished 23-1, which is absolutely extraordinary, which was the best record in the league. That being said, their one loss, well, it was to Tacoma. And in other games throughout the year, Tacoma had moments where they played San Diego very competitively, and at some points looked like the better side. So, I think San Diego is going to lose one of the games in this series. I think they're going to lose that first game in Tacoma. The series will then switch back to San Diego, where the Sockers will win both Game 2 and the mini game, and barely progress to the conference finals. Then the final matchup of the divisional round, Utica City Fc playing the Baltimore Blast. Boy, this should be a fun series to watch. These two teams, they went back and forth at it all year long. Two teams that are clearly very good and very evenly matched. Now, as for the playoffs, the last two games in the regular season were won by the Baltimore Blast, which to me actually favors Utica a little bit because it's very tough for a team to beat someone like Utica 3 times in a row. But that being said, Game 1 is in Baltimore. And yes, Utica won there earlier this year, but the Blast are playing much better since then. I think it's going to be an incredibly tough place for Utica to get a win this time around, so I think Game 1 goes to Baltimore. Game 2, we go up to Utica, and I think the city wins this game fairly easily. By this point, they're going to be well overdue for a win over the Blast, and I think they're going to put one together, as I said, without that much trouble. Which sets up the mini game, and marks the point where my phone ran out of video storage. Now to me, the mini game heavily favors the Blast. Danny Kelly really seems like he knows what he's doing when it comes to mini games. The Blast have done very well in them over the years, and I expect that trend to continue this year. It's going to be a real close game and must-watch arena soccer, but I think the Blast are going to pull off the win and win the series 2-1. Okay, so the divisional rounds are now in the books. Let's move on to the conference finals. We'll stay out east for the first one. In my bracket, we have the Baltimore Blast playing the Milwaukee Wave. Earlier this year, during the regular season, these teams played 2 games, both of which were won by Milwaukee. And if you looked at the scores in those games, they were sort of close. But if you watched those games, you would know that Milwaukee was clearly the team that had the edge in those games and clearly better than the Blast. Now, since those games have been played, the Blast have shown a lot of improvement on the field. But I'm just not sure if it's enough improvement, especially considering this is a single game series and it's in Milwaukee. And with all that in mind, I'm picking the Wave to move on to the MASL Finals. Moving out west, we have the San Diego Sockers playing Flash de Monterrey. If you remember in the divisional round, I had the Sockers almost being upset by the Stars. I think this will serve as a wake-up call of sorts for the Sockers, and they'll come into the series much more prepared, and I think they're going to dominate the Flash. I think they're going to easily win their game against them, and San Diego, much like Milwaukee, will move on to the MASL Finals. And here we are. The Milwaukee Wave playing the San Diego Sockers for the Ron Newman Cup. This is going to be an epic clash and one that you will not want to miss. As for predicting the winner, it's a bit tough because there is no interconference play in the MASL this year. This is the first time an Eastern Conference team has played a Western Conference team. And it's a little bit tough to gauge the level of play between the two conferences without a little bit of that interconference play. With that being said, I do think this is going to be the toughest game of the year for the Milwaukee Wave. It's the stiffest competition they've played. They have to travel out to San Diego and play in what I can only assume is going to be an absolutely packed house. But that being said, San Diego, they're in the same boat. I think this is going to be the toughest game for them all year long and the best team that they have played. And Milwaukee almost has a slight edge in this sense because to me, Milwaukee has played more games of this nature. San Diego has had a lot of pushover games this year. I don't think Milwaukee has had quite as many of those. So there's a lot of things at play here. And thinking about all of that, I was able to come up with a winner. I'm fairly confident with this pick, but we'll see. I'm picking the Sockers to win this game. I think the fact that the game is in San Diego is really going to give them that edge that they need to win. But as I said, it's going to be an epic clash, and I really hope it happens. I think these two teams will be a fantastic Final Two and a great way to end the season. So that will do it for my MASL playoff picks. Sorry about the camera going out. I'm really not quite sure what happened there. It seemed to have plenty of space when I started, but apparently not. Make sure you come back at the end of the playoffs to see which ones I got right and which ones I got wrong, as well as to see some off-season predictions for the MASL. In the meantime, make sure you like this video and subscribe to the channel, and I will see you next time.